All right, so we're here with the one and only.
You know, your boy Mike T, aka YBMT, man. Some of y'all might know me as Mike T, man. So what's going on with you, Skrilla?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So for those who haven't seen you in a while or haven't tapped in a while, tell the people where you've been. What's been going
Man,
on?
just kind of just trying to stay away from the world a little bit. Just tapping into myself, you know what I mean? Focus on this art, the kids, you know what I mean? Just trying to stay motherfucking sucker free, you know?
And are there any projects you have coming out or new music you have coming out or where they can see you right now as far as the content you've been putting out?
Uh, I got a few things I've been working on. I just put out a project I want to say about a couple months ago. Thoughts of myself. Mainly, I just been focused on features. You know what I mean, mixing, engineering, trying to help some of the homies get their projects out. So, and then like I said, you got the film coming out, man. So it's time to start working on that. You feel me? So,
So, what's been the elevation in the last few years in your music as far as just life and how it's influenced the change in content that you started to make?
I want to say the growth, the struggle. Me just going through different situations in life. You know what I mean? Like, time changes. You feel me? So back then, times was different. We was talking about different things. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's a whole new era. You feel me? So the sound is different now. You know, the grind is different. You feel me? So pretty much just trying to keep up, you know what I mean, with everybody else that's out here trying to keep up with the wave as well. You feel me? So that's been keeping me motivated. Just trying to stay relevant at the end of the day. So
What's something that you can point to that you've seen personally that sparked the change in your evolution?
what I seen personally that sparked the change, um, coming from where I come from, Huntington, man. Huntington, West Virginia, if you don't know. A lot of people don't make it out from where we are. You know what I mean? So it's just knowing that in the back of my mind and all the things that I try to work hard for myself and what I believed in, basketball, sports, you know what I mean? Even, like I said, the music, supporting everybody else, it's like we never got that opportunity. So I know it's a different era, you know what I mean? And it's a lot of kids that like to do music, that love art. So if there's a way that we can open up doors to try to help push the youth, then that's what's been motivating me the most. You know what I mean? So
When you said a lot of people don't make it out of Huntington, what's
and I'm not just saying like, nobody really make it out, you know what I mean? I'm just saying like when it comes to the art and the music aspect, you know what I mean? It's like we don't really have that outlet, you know what I mean, to really be able to create doors for anybody else to make it with the art and the music. You know what I mean? So
what's sort of been keeping that outlet away from where you're from?
I think it's unity. I think unity is a big thing. I think sometimes, like I said, it all starts with self-reflection, looking in the mirror. You know what I mean? And you got to know that you can't do everything by yourself. You got to build a team. You know what I mean? And at this point, you know what I mean? It's like, where your heart at with it? You know what I mean? Do you want to be selfish with everything? Everybody can always say, I'm doing this for me, 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 me. But what you gonna get at the end of the day? What are you trying to build? You know what I mean? So at this point, that's just I've been doing it for like 10 to 15 years by myself. You know what I mean? So at this point, I understand that we need a team. So pretty much where I'm at.
In your music, especially lately, there's been a lot of consciousness in it where you're speaking on a lot of things that are going on in society. You speak on a little bit of politics. What sparked you including that in your music along with telling the story of where you come from?
Just pretty much going through my own trials. It's the growth. Like I said, like not really knowing anything. You know what I mean? So my childhood, like I said, it was sports. You know what I mean? I think people just need to realize, you know what I mean, like what's really happening out here. You feel me? Like we know what's right and what's wrong. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm getting to the point to where it's like all this conspiracy shit, all this politics shit, you know what I mean? It's like you got to see through the bullshit if you want truth. You know what I mean? So I just tell people to do more study, look in the books, man. We got to read, man. As people, we got to read. We need to stop scrolling and pick up a fucking book. So once you know truth, you know truth.
One of the things you talked about was some of the, say, older generation not necessarily schooling the youth as much as they need to anymore, or as much as they used to. Can you kind of touch on that and maybe elaborate?
I want to say back then, man, like, just like I said, like back then, say when we was running around our youth, you know what I mean? Like all the uncles, all the OGs on the block. If we was doing something wrong and our OGs or our uncles seen us doing something wrong, they gonna check us. You see what I'm saying? They gonna make sure, hey, what you doing over here? You all right? Your mom and daddy know you over here? You ain't supposed to be over here. Nowadays, it's just a bunch of shiesties run around, you know. Everybody want to run around loose and just cause havoc, but don't nobody want to take accountability. You know what I mean? So I think in our society, in our environment, our youth, we need to start taking accountability. You know what I mean? So any way I can get that out there to help preach that and teach the youth, you know what I mean? Like, change ain't too late.
You talked about accountability. In our culture, given what's considered normal, what's considered, and given what's considered normal in our culture versus what's considered sort of taboo, where does accountability start?
With us, first off, I think it starts with the black man himself. You know what I mean? I think it starts to come back to the basic parts of our roots, bro. You know what I mean? Like, to where we know if one of our loved ones, any young loved one in our community is out there doing anything, if you out there and you see them doing something, hey, man, talk to them. Ain't no wrong with talking to them. You got a platform, talk to the people. You know what I mean? If you feel like our society is so bad, talk to the people. Somebody got to step up and talk. Everybody want to tweet and type about it, but nobody want to talk. You see what I'm saying? And I think it got to the point where this mentality is everybody is like, well, as long as my kids is okay, I'm not worried about anything else. As long as I make it home, it's like, okay. But what if your baby cousin don't make it home? What if your niece don't make it home? You know what I mean? What if, you know what I mean? Like, how can we change that mindset in some way to try to start letting that spread like a disease in the hood? You see what I'm saying? Like, let's lend a hand. Why can't we do that? So that's just pretty much where, at my heart and my inner peace, is where it's been leading me at the moment. You know, so.
What sort of the things that you've seen in the youth that sort of give you hope? That let you know, there's still some young cats out there that are wising up and, trying to talk to their peers and lead by example and things of that nature.
A lot of our black men has been stepping up, you know, with the youth community leagues, the football leagues, the AAU teams. We got a lot of brothers that's stepping up, coaching some of the high school teams and everything. So it's just like they're starting to get a lot of the youth kids in our neighborhoods to get in the gym and talking to them. You know what I mean? Like we're stepping up to be good peers to these kids who ain't probably never had a father figure. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's is really what's been giving me a little hope, just seeing that with my own eyes. You know what I mean? Seeing the other brothers stepping up doing that. You see what I'm saying? And then the loss of my cousin Jamil, and the way that the whole community came together, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it lets me know that this ain't about me. This ain't about art or who's the best, who is this and that. This is about the youth the community, the hurt, the pain. Why we still in the streets killing each other? You know what I mean? Why we can't just go out to eat, talk about our problems? Why can't we just like learn how to handle our differences in a different way instead of killing each other? You see what I'm saying? So it's like it's deeper when you learn to wake up to certain things and certain truths, bro. To propaganda, the way they. Not saying we ain't at our own fault, you know what I mean? But we know that we are oppressed in certain ways. We all know that. But once you wake up to that and you be like, hold on, bro, we know our back is against the wall, that we already against the system. Nobody is there to help us. We need each other. You feel me? So once we get to that root to where we can just talk to each other, come on, man. It's really just a slight conversation at the end of the day. Like men, level-headed, you know what I mean? So, but seeing everybody come together, man, that's just what sparked my hope for everything.
You talked about being independent and doing a lot of things yourself. What is sort of the challenges as someone being independent versus, you know, individuals that have that machine behind them that are able to catapult to certain avenues and be able to get their things out there? You've heard a lot of people talk about it takes, you know, $200,000 to $300,000 to break a record. And then you've heard some people say, you know, you just put the work in, stay independent, your time will come, things of that nature. It's like you got two different spectrums of thinking on how to break into the industry. What seems to be the disconnect?
The machine is behind everything. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta have that money. Like, you gotta have that money to break them records. You know what I mean? And that's the disadvantage, you know what I mean, of being independent and having a team. You know what I mean? Like, I've been independent for 10, like I said, 10, 15 years. Learned everything from scratch, taught myself, you know what I mean? And then dropping so much music, dropping music, and like, man, what am I missing? I know I got the you know, the product, I got the portfolio. Like, what am I missing? What you missing is you missing somebody can do marketing, somebody can put in, you know, go out there and look for the shows. You know, you need all your A&Rs, you need everything, you know what I mean? And I never had that. So learning that over the years, you know what I mean, it was kind of like, okay, it's hard to break that record yourself. You gotta have that money. You know what I mean? You gotta have investments. You gotta have all of that. Sponsors. You gotta merchandise. You gotta sell everything, man. You know what I mean? Like you said, movie roles, scripts, acting. Get your face out there. Get your brand out there. You know what I mean? So going independent with no money. Not saying you don't got no money. You know what I mean? But it's gonna cost you that big bag to really break that one record. I heard somebody say, like, nowadays in the streaming world, it takes like, what, 80 spins to make $1 off one song. You see what I'm saying? So you do the math, you got 15, 20 songs, dropping. Nobody to tell you, like, hey, man, let's have a blueprint with everything. You gotta have money invested. If you don't got that, man, it's not gonna work nowadays. You know, back in the days, you can go ahead and print up, 100,000 CDs, and you know what I mean? Everything is hand to hand. You gotta, it made you put that work in, that real work. Now everybody can sit behind the screen and just, so I think that's what's been making it hard for a lot of independent artists, you know what I mean? And just not that, it's a lot of competition, you know what I mean? Some people in the industry, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it can be a buddy system, you know what I mean? So I don't, you know, you gotta really know somebody. You gotta really, you know, it's a system, man. It's a system.
You come from an engineering background, and you talked about having to learn that on your own. And I want to ask, what's been an advantage of having that mixing engineer knowledge when it comes to approaching music as a whole?
When you've been mixing yourself for so long, trying to master it and like sometimes you get stuck in your own ways. You know what I mean? Like you know it sound good to you now. You know what I mean? But all these different sounds over the eras, the years, it's like okay, it's just it takes away from what we know sometimes. You know what I mean? So it's just it's a lot of different sounds and a lot of different. But we always figure it out as engineers. You know what I mean? So it's just you know, I don't know, man. It kind of I think sometimes like it takes away from what I'm trying to do. You know what I mean? And then you got everybody want it this way, that way, da da da. Like I said, it's just it gets a little complicated and frustrated, irritated. But if you're an engineer, you make it work. You know what I mean?
So you talked about people doing it different ways. What's been the evolution you've seen from where you first started engineering to say now, as far as where everything's more digital? You know, things used to be a little bit more analog back in the day. People
Yeah,
used a lot more outboard gear, things of
yeah,
that nature. And now you see the rise of, you know, a lot of the subscription services that
yeah,
offer these plugins that, you know, make things sound amazing, but, you know, you have a certain crowd that sort of go against it, that are
yeah,
sort of anti-digital, stay outboard geared, and you have some people that are like, you know, we're gonna that are basically adopting AI into everything that they're
right,
doing.
right,
So it's
right.
kind of
It's like it's just simplifying everything for for people who just want to do it. You know what I mean? Like to me, I just feel like from where I came from, bro, like I had to really put time into everything. So it wasn't more like, oh, I just want to be a rapper one day. Oh, they got the plugins right here, or I could just say this, say that, and just load it. You know what I mean? And nah, we had to really put our heart and pain in that, right? Get in there, okay, I gotta find an EQ setting. I gotta find a compressor. I gotta find everything on my own. Here's a help box. If I need to learn it, here help. Type in what I need to just to guide me, you feel me? Like it was more into the project now back then than it is now. You see what I'm saying? So, I think it takes away from the art aspect all in general to me.
so you feel that same way about AI basically.
You know where I was getting at a little bit. Yeah, I mean AI cool to a certain extent. I think some people just take it overboard. But I kind of knew that. You know what I mean? Like we knew what they wanted. You see what I'm saying? So as an artist, if you are an artist coming up, anybody in the game, you know what I mean? Like I said, merchandise, you know, interviews, you know what I mean? Like sell everything. Print up some CDs. Print up some, anything you can sell, man, sell it. Stop going through these distribution companies, man. That's how I feel for real. Get you a real solid team together. Create your own website, if anything. Sell everything on your own website. It don't matter how slow it take.
So you talked about not using distribution companies, and that brings a very, very interesting conversation, because when you think about it now, if you're not part of a major label, in
You
order to
gotta,
get your songs on platforms, you have
you
to go
gotta,
through what people call an aggregator, which is, you know, the CD Baby, the Distro Kids, the
all of that.
TuneCores, I don't. There's a bunch of them out there now, so I can't name them all. But
Right.
and when you see the payouts of what these things are offering you, it's almost like you said, how does someone get around
Around that.
that aggregator and find more direct to consumer? Because people aren't necessarily consuming physical media anymore unless it's a, you know, stylistic choice. You know,
Right.
it's starting to make a comeback with some people, but
Yeah.
there's not a big enough rage for the industry to sort of reconform back to direct to consumer that way, not unless just something happens to the internet.
Right.
So it's like, how do you navigate that in a world where AI just keeps
Just
progressing?
keep progressing. You see what I'm saying? It's tricky. It's tricky, man. You see what I'm saying? So that's where the frustration come into play. You know what I mean? So when you've been doing it so long and you're not used to all this AI shit, you know what I mean? Like I hear now, I'm not really hip too much, but I hear now, you know, AI, what they can write you a whole song like that and have with an AI artist or something sing it, and
I've
you know what I mean? Like that's different now, Skrilla. You
I've
feel
seen
me?
firsthand what it can do from a music perspective,
Uh huh.
and it's very, very scary.
Yeah.
From what I've researched, that there's AI songs charting right now, and
Right.
people don't even know it.
Right. Don't even know it. Singing these songs to this day, don't even know it.
And it's the same with visual content as well. There's a lot of AI slop going through a lot of these social media platforms, and people don't even realize how much AI they're even actually consuming.
So what do you do when these people want to see these people in person and they don't know that these people are AI? So what we want them on the show. Can we get them in? What's going to happen then? You know what I mean? Like, or do people even care nowadays? You see what I'm saying? So for real artists, it's frustrating. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we fighting the system, man. Regardless, whether or not. So how do you get around it? That's a good question.
When people see your work, when people hear your music, when people watch your videos, when they look into Mike T, what's the overall message you want them to see?
Oh, I just be wanting people to tune in to, like, I'm a real artist, man. Just this is my real life. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I try to hit different points, to make different songs, different angles, try to be versatile, try to talk about politics, try to don't and to the artists out there, don't be scared to go out your range, man. You can step out your box, man. You know what I mean? If you really feel it deep down inside, man, talk about that too. You see what I'm saying? So and a lot of that comes with growth. You know what I mean? So you know what it's like being in the studio day in, day out, just making songs, song after song, song after song. You know what I mean? Eventually you can be like, man, I know the people need something different. Maybe, you know what I mean? I know. Just go with that intuition, man. Put it in, you know, talk about that too. Don't be a one-way artist, you know. Nowadays you can talk consciously, you know what I mean? So be aware of that. You just gotta make the people feel you, man. Just don't be afraid to, you know, go outside the box and talk and show your art. You know what I mean? Show who you really are.